Hi, today I'd like to show you how to use brioche cables to outline shifts between brioche and garter stitch or moss stitch or some other stitch you're working along with your brioche. So you may remember in my last video, I showed you how to combine brioche knitting with two-color garter stitch. You can check that out if you haven't already seen it. You can do the same thing with knit purl patterns as well. So here I have two-color moss stitch, which has worked very similar to the two-color garter, but instead of knitting with one color and purling with the other, I'm just working knit two, purl two, and then alternating those on the right side and wrong side rows. So if I wanted to shift this column of brioche stitches over and have more of my work be in my moss stitch, I would use a cable to do that because I think it's the neatest way to outline the transition and get a nice smooth line there. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to start with my color A, which is my pink, and I'm going to work brioche in pattern, starting by knitting my selvage stitch. Slip one yarn over, brioche knit, going right across. Now, because this is brioche, I always want to maintain my structure of having stitches added in multiples of 2 or taken away in multiples of 2. So my cable is going to be over 3 stitches. I'm going to use a stitch marker as my cable needle, and I'm going to hold a brioche knit with its yarn over and the next stitch to the back, making sure my yarn over doesn't fall over that previous stitch that I worked. Brioche knit my next stitch. Now I'm going to return these 2 stitches to my left needle off of my stitch marker. If you're using a traditional cable needle, you can work them right off of the cable needle. And then I am going to purl these next 2 stitches. The exact same technique would work with knitting or purling, depending on what stitch pattern you're trying to work after your cables. But purling sets me up for my moss stitch. And I'm just going to work in moss stitch to the end of the row. And I'm just knitting 2 and purling 2, always working the opposite of what was in the row below. And now I will work my color B row, or my color B pass of the same row, because as you're probably familiar, if you're watching this video, in brioche we count rows, counting the color A and the color B pass as one row. So I'm going to work over to my cable in brioche. And now I simply slip one yarn over on that last stitch. And now, because I'm working in moss stitch, I'm going to do the same with my color B as I did with my color A. So I'm going to purl 2 and knit 2. And just work in pattern. to the end of my row. Oops. So you can see here that my brioche column is shifting over to the right, and I'm starting to get more of this background stitch. I'm going to work a couple more rows and then come back and show you what this looks like so that you can understand the effect a little bit more. Okay, so I have worked the same cable 2 more times, and you can see that the area of my moss stitch is getting bigger and it's moving over to be a larger proportion of the fabric, and the area of my brioche stitch is getting smaller. And you can do what I showed you on the right side using a right leaning cable, and you can do the same thing holding the stitch to the front and then working your moss stitch or your garter stitch to move the cable to the left. Then if I want to shift the other direction and move so that I'm getting more brioche and less moss or less garter stitch, I work the stitches just like a regular brioche cable, so like a BRRX or a BRLX, and you can check out my videos for those if you're not familiar with how to work those. So you can see it creates this nice, neat brioche column outlining the transition between the two kinds of stitches, and you can use these cables to do any kind of shaping or transitions to make all kinds of different effects between your two different kinds of stitches. I hope that this video has been helpful, and this gives you some inspiration of some new cool things you can try with your brioche knitting. Thank you for watching.